Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, going to be talking through a couple player props I like on Prizepicks for tonight's NBA slate on Wednesday, April the 19th. We have 3 games tonight, so decent Wednesday slate. We got Game 2 of the Grizzlies and Lakers series, we got Game 2 of the Bucks and Heat series, and then we got Game 2 of the Timberwolves and Nuggets series. We got a good amount of player props up right now. The only team we don't have on the board right now are the Bucks. That's just because Giannis is doubtful, so I guess they're kind of holding off props for the Bucks at least right now until we know that Giannis is officially out. But we got most of the props up for this Wednesday slate, and specifically the fantasy score props I've been looking at, and I got 2 fantasy score props I do like for this Wednesday slate. So we're gonna talk through these 2 plays, guys. We're gonna share why I like them, but before we do get started talking through the plays, as always, if you guys do enjoy these Prizepicks videos and if they do help you out, make sure you hit that like button down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel, if you've never checked out Prizepicks before, you can actually sign up for Prizepicks and use my promo code Noah. If you look at the bottom of the screen, when you sign up for Prizepicks with my promo code, you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. So be sure to check out Prizepicks. If you have not yet, use that code when you sign up, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. But before we do talk through these 2 plays for Wednesday, I do want to recap our 2 plays that we gave out in Tuesday's video. So Tuesday, man, felt like we should have cashed that 2-pick entry that we gave out Tuesday. We did hit the over on Jalen Brunson's fantasy score. Brunson actually wound up being a taco for Taco Tuesday. His points prop got discounted down to 20.5, and Brunson finished with 20 points, lost by the hook. I'm sure you guys were watching the game, you saw how it ended. But luckily, Brunson was able to get a good amount of rebounds, a good amount of assists. He also had like 3 steals, which helped him to go over his fantasy score. So Brunson did go over his fantasy score, but unfortunately, Trae Young did not go over his fantasy score. And man, anyone who watched the game, I mean, you saw how it ended. Trae Young, I was pretty sure, I think it was with 6 minutes left, he had 37.6 fantasy points with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He played the entire fourth quarter. He played, even though the Hawks were down by like 20, they kept their starters in the entire game, the entire quarter. We needed 2 fantasy points from Trae Young with 6 minutes to play. Dude doesn't get any stats for 6 minutes. He plays 6 minutes with no rebounds, no assists, no made baskets, no steals, no blocks, nothing for 6 minutes. I mean, what can you do, man? I mean, how does that even happen? I had this happen to me earlier this season with Luka. I needed I think like 3 fantasy points from Luka with like 6 minutes left, and Luka did nothing for 6 minutes. And that same thing happened on Tuesday night with Trae Young. Super annoying, man. I mean, we can't catch a break right now. Really felt like we should have cashed that Trae Young play. Trae should have got there. He had 6 minutes to get 2 fantasy points and didn't do anything for that stretch, which was just obviously super annoying. I was watching the game, I was sweating it out, and just God, I was losing my mind watching it play out. What can you do, man? It's been frustrating, no doubt, but we move on to Wednesday. Hopefully today can finally be the day that we cash both of our plays, hit both of these plays. But let's talk through the 2 picks that I do like for this Wednesday slate. So the first one that we're going to talk about is going to be Max Strus, his fantasy score line of 20.5. And I actually like the over here for Max Strus. I think we got some really big news for Miami right now. No Tyler Hero. We saw Tyler Hero get injured in their last game, and he's already been ruled out for I think a few weeks. He might not even play, maybe not even play again in the playoffs. We'll have to see. But Strus is going to play really big minutes here. We saw last game Max Strus wound up playing 38 minutes, and I think something that's really important is that we've seen at times this season when Max Strus is if he's not hitting his shots, sometimes they'll just play other guys over Strus, like they'll play Caleb Martin or they'll play Kyle Lowry, really anyone else. But the fact that Strus wasn't even really knocking down his shots and he still played 38 minutes last game makes me feel pretty confident he's playing big minutes here. He played huge minutes in the play-in game against the Bulls. He got 36 minutes in that game. He got 38 minutes last game. Without Tyler Hero, the minutes are going to be pretty secure here for Strus, and I think he plays about 35 to 36 minutes, and his point per minute production should definitely go up with Hero out. And if you look at the games that he has played without Hero this season, Strus has been really good in the games he's played without Hero this season. He's also played really good minutes in a lot of those games. He's played 15 total games without Hero this season. He's gone over this fantasy score line in 11 out of those 15 games. So the production's been really solid for Strus without Hero. This line just definitely feels too low to me, especially if we're going to get 35, 36 minutes. I mean, you look at this Miami team and you look at their rotation, they're going to run a pretty tight rotation. We did see Duncan Robinson start the second half last game in place of in place of Hero, but Duncan Robinson played 6 minutes. I mean, he barely got any time. I think, Miami is kind of locked in on like 7, 8 guys that they want to play, and I don't know if they really want to play anyone else. Like Victor Oladipo hasn't even been in the playoff rotation, so I think we can expect Strus to play really big minutes here. The usage, it's not going to be great for a guy like Strus. When it comes to a guy like Max Strus, for him to have a really good game, he's definitely going to have to knock down some threes. But I feel like, with this, Bucks team really keying their defense in on Jimmy Butler, especially without Hero, they can just really focus their defense in on Butler and Bam. With those guys getting a lot of defensive attention from Milwaukee, I feel like that's going to leave, a lot of open looks from three for a guy like Strus. So if he can knock down some threes, maybe grab some rebounds. Strus has been a pretty good rebounder throughout his career. Maybe he gets an assist or two, maybe like a steal or a block. 20.5 fantasy score, this definitely is a line that Strus can easily go over, especially if he plays 38 minutes like he did last game. And I know last game he didn't go over this fantasy score line while playing 38 minutes, but more times than not, when Strus plays 38 minutes, especially without Tyler Hero, he's going to go over 20.5 fantasy scores. So I definitely feel like this line's a little bit too low for Strus. Without Hero, I think he does get a little bit of a boost. I think the minutes are going to be really secure. He's just going to play a ton, and it's strictly a minutes play for me. Just feel like this line should be probably like 24.5 or 25.5. So that's what we're going to take as our first play for today. And then the other play that I like, another fantasy score prop, is going to be Nikola Jokic, 52.5 fantasy score. I actually played this last slate. It was one of the plays I gave out on Patreon last slate. I'm going back to it today. I think, once again, it looks really good. Last slate, it was at 55.5. It got dropped down to 52.5. Obviously, Jokic did not get there last slate. But there's a couple things to note. Last game was a blowout. Jokic, didn't really play much at all in the fourth quarter. He subbed back in with about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He was on pace to play about 36 minutes, but he actually wound up fouling out in the fourth quarter. He played like 1 minute in the fourth before he wound up fouling out. But again, he was on pace to play about 36 minutes. And as long as this game stays competitive, as long as Minnesota can keep it somewhat close, Jokic is going to play probably 36, 37, 38 minutes here. And we know that Jokic is a great point per minute player. He's been like the best point per minute player in the league this season in terms of like fantasy points per minute. He's averaged 1.65 fantasy points per minute this season. And if you take a look at his games this season where he's played 36 minutes or more, there's been 19 total games this season where Jokic has played 36 minutes or more. He's over this fantasy score line in 14 out of those 19 games. So typically when Jokic gets full minutes, especially in the playoffs, minutes could even be extended a little bit. Usually Jokic is going to go over 52.5 fantasy score. I almost feel like this line is kind of factoring in a potential blowout, which, this game has an 8.5 point spread. Even with an 8.5 point spread, I feel like we shouldn't be projecting a blowout here. Maybe if the spread was like 13.5 or 14.5, then I would start to get worried about blowout. But the spread's below double digits. As long as this game is within like 10 to 15 points, the starters are going to be out there. And we've seen in the playoffs so far, even when teams are down by like 20 with 3-4 minutes left, they're still keeping their guys in. Like the Hawks, they were down by 20, almost the entire, especially late in the fourth quarter, and all the starters played the entire game. Like they played out the final minutes. So as long as Minnesota keeps it within like 10 to 15 points, Jokic should be out there for his full minutes. And he's been great against Minnesota. He specifically has been great against Rudy Gobert. I know, he didn't have the greatest game in game one, but if you look at some of Jokic's games against Gobert, Gobert you think is like an elite defender and kind of like he's been one of the better defenders throughout his career. But I think with this Minnesota team, they really trust Gobert one-on-one with Jokic, so they're not really going to double-team Jokic a lot, and they didn't really double-team him a lot in game one. And I think that's when Jokic can really put up big games, when he's going up one-on-one against anyone. Doesn't matter who it is, Gobert, any defensive center, even if it's a great defensive center like a Brook Lopez or a Mitch Robinson. Even if you put Jokic one-on-one against anyone, he can win like any one-on-one matchup. Usually when Jokic, doesn't have big games, it's because like he gets doubled a lot and he has to just pass out and he can't really do much offensively. But Minnesota wasn't really doubling Jokic. They were just letting Gobert guard him one-on-one. And you take a look at some of Jokic's games against Gobert, these are like his last 10 fantasy score games. These are his last 11 games against Rudy Gobert, dating back to when Gobert was on Utah. 53.8 fantasy points, 75.2 fantasy points, 58.7, 68.3, 74.9, 52.3. Then he had a down game where he only played 15 minutes. So I don't even want to look at that game. There was a game where he played 15 minutes, but then he had 67 fantasy points. He had 63.4, and then there was one game this season where he had just 46.9 fantasy points. But basically, over his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, basically his last 10 games against Rudy Gobert, not counting last game and then not counting a game where he played just 15 minutes, Jokic has gone over 52.5 fantasy score in 9 out of those 10 games. again, like I don't really look at like player versus player stats, but I think it is kind of important, especially for a guy like Gobert, who's kind of known as like a good defensive center. He really hasn't done any stopping on. He hasn't stopped Jokic at all. I mean, Jokic has had huge games against Gobert. We know Jokic is going to stuff the stat sheet when he's out there. 52.5 fantasy score line. This line just feels too low to me. I mean, it was 55.5 last slate. I liked it a lot. It's 52.5 today. I think as long as this game doesn't blow out again, as long as Jokic doesn't get in foul trouble again, he has a good chance of going over this fantasy score line, especially if he does wind up playing his full 36, 37, 38 minutes. So these are the two plays that I do like for this Wednesday slate, guys. Two early picks, kind of what I'm liking, taking a first look at the board on Tuesday night. But I'll be sharing some more plays for today. Do give those out over on Patreon. Been giving out some MLB plays over on Patreon as well. So if you guys like to follow MLB, I do provide some MLB plays along with NBA, especially right now with it being only a few NBA games every day. I don't want to just give out like a ton of NBA plays when there's only like a few games. So I try and mix in a few NBA plays with some MLB as well. But if you guys want more prospects plays from me, if you enjoy these videos, they help you out, you want more prospects plays, I do give those out again on Patreon. You can check that out, linked down below in the description. But appreciate you guys watching as always. Make sure if you guys enjoyed this video, you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, be sure to check out Prizepicks. If you're not signed up for Prizepicks yet, you can use that promo code NOAH. When you sign up, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. But best of luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching the video as always. Hopefully, we can cash these two picks. We can make a little bit of money tonight. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Appreciate you guys watching. Peace.